because the ZBA was waiving it every time. And if the ZBA's going to do away with it, then why have it in the bylaw?
Okay, why don't we go around the room, and if you've got comments for Mr. Harris, let's have them. Who wants to begin? I'll go.
So I'm finding this still way too lengthy, and I'm finding some things that are just overly complicated, some things that are too restrictive that don't really apply to a town of our size. I would need more time with this. I've been going through it, and I've been making notes, and I've been striking things that I think don't belong here. Some things should be left to the Conservation Commission, which were in here, implying that it was our responsibility. Some things were...
I noted that as well.
Yep, some things that are in here, 9C, which soil, septic and septic.
Which page? I just want to read on.
5.
Septic?
5. Yeah. I mean, I can go through each one. I've got quite a few to save on time. Like I said, I need more time with it. Then I can strike the things that I want. Then I can add the things that I want, and then produce a paper. But if I just buzz through them quickly.
Okay, before you do, I would like to have Richard wrap this project up by the end of October, and before we have our zoning public forum on November 7th.
Yeah, I think the end of October would probably be okay. It's just right. I'm certainly not in a position right now to say, yeah, I really like this, because I don't. There's too many things in here that I really don't think should apply to us.
So go through them.
Well, okay. Well, let's just say on page 1, 5, interpretation. Sequential or cumulative development for purposes of determining whether increase the size of building. That whole, something like this, that whole paragraph doesn't seem to fit when we have a trigger of 1,200 square feet to trigger site plan review.
Why not?
What's that?
Why does it not fit? I don't understand why.
Because we have a trigger of 1,200 square feet, so a 1,200 square feet is usually our trigger.
They could do 600 feet for 5 years.
What's that?
They could do 600 feet for 5 years, be at 3,000 square feet, and well under our trigger. And I think that's why you're adding this kind of historical view. Because otherwise,
is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I could see people playing that game and doing 1,000 a year just so it doesn't trigger, and then 4 years later you have a 4,000 square foot mess.
So then we're going to eliminate the 1,200 square feet. The 1,200 feet, then we wouldn't have that at all.
Well, that would be the 1 year, correct? That's how the 1,200 feet reads? I just want to make sure I'm
It's
following.
at any one time.
One time.
Yeah, any one time.
It's 1,200 feet at one time, but one time, this says you should consider cumulative development as the one time.
Yeah.
You should look back 5 years.
And my question was, how would we do that? That would be easy enough if we got a building permit for each of these.
Right.
But in terms of grading or clearing, how?
That's harder, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think we'd be able, it wouldn't be enforceable for grading and clearing because somebody's going to do it.
Or even 600 square feet.
Yeah, you would think though, at least for a property, they'd be pulling permits. In grading, people are going to push dirt. We've talked about this in the past. They're going to push dirt on it whenever. No, they don't need a permit.
This is not permitted.
And buildings, if nothing else, the assessor should be catching that when they got the assessor.
I think the assessor is mostly going by the permits that they impose, and that's what they're using to be a tax base.
Okay, I'll run this by you. How about this? Resumption of discontinued use when a building has been...
Where's that one?
Page 2.
5C.
5C.
Gotcha.
So basically what that's saying is if the use that was in it prior is discontinued for 24 consecutive months, and that will trigger a change of use, and you'll go to site plan review. So It's always been our thing in town that once it was there, that's it, it can stay. But if we're going to put a limit on it, I think 24 months is kind of a short period of time. That goes by pretty fast.
I do believe there should be a limit, but I agree that 2 years is a very quick period of time. It sometimes takes these properties in town a year plus to sell.
Right.
In some cases, multiple years.
If the consensus was that there was to be a restriction like that, I had 5 years, is what I wrote. If everybody was in agreement with that. Because we've had a situation like that.
60 months.
We've had a situation like that now across the street.
Retail.
Right. It was office.
D&D liquidators?
Yeah. So it was office for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden they wanted retail again, and there was thought there would be site plan review until some documents were found years ago that it was retail at one point in time.
Did he buy that building?
Yeah.
Yes, he owns it.
I've been in there, I don't know how he's gonna make it.
Would you have wanted there to be site plan review at that point or not?
I didn't think it was necessary.
I wouldn't.
But maybe in that individual case.
But it's just an example.
Yeah,
Would you have
yeah.
wanted them? Did you think that in a case like that it was necessary for them to come in and go through the whole thing with the site plan and everything else, whereas retail had been there before? It might have been 15 years ago.
Like, I think it's
agree
more for stuff that's currently grandfathered in, like somebody's operating a gas station that's not supposed to be there, and then goes dormant for 2 years, and then
Or
somebody
even-
buys it, wants to keep operating a gas station, we can say no.
Twins is Hanksel gas station. That hasn't been in use for
Years.
10 years plus. It's been a while.
It hangs, it's a gas station, plus you got.
So if they wanted to start that operation
And my
again,
thing is
would you think it would
realistically,
come in for
there needs to be a
something?
limit to that, so somebody can't say, yeah, but 20 years ago. Retail to me is relatively benign, especially in town center, it's a good thing to have. But I do think that there should be some sort of limit.
Let's do it 5 years.
That makes sense to everyone?
That's what I had.
Yeah,
I think
That would be a reasonable amount of time if everybody was in agreement to.
Is there a similar thing on special permits or no?
Special permits run with the person that they gave them to.
I mean, like,
if it's something
if
switches
they don't
hands.
have a permit and you know, like a lot that they're using for storage of materials on a commercial lot, and they would need a special permit, but they were doing it before we put that into effect. So they're grandfathered in now. If they stop storing the materials and then they start it again 5 years later, do they then need a special permit?
I would say that they would.
It would need, for us, it would need site plan review. We don't do the special permits on that. The ZBA
Yes,
does.
so they require a permit for that. It depends, I think we're looking at site plan review versus
Yes.
permit.
Yeah.
It's the same
If they
operator.
needed- Right. They would need a permit if they had a change in use. If they hadn't done it for 5 years, they should be pulling a permit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is there a similar
It would be a change
resumption
of
of discontinuance?
ownership. So if there was a permit on there at one point in time, property gets sold, that person can't come in and do the same thing. If a special permit was involved, they would have to refile and get their own. But if he were to, I think if your question is, if he were to walk away from that and then come back in 5 years or 6 years and try and do it again, according to what we have, he would have to now get site plan review.
What if someone changes hands, business-wise, it's change of use, but not really a change of
Even
use,
if,
but
even if it's the special permit goes away, that's tied to
Goes
the
away.
original person.
That's fine,
Yes,
that's fine.
That's this whole thing where we've had some properties in town. The new person has to come in and do the same thing, and they need a special permit.
Yes, that's true.
If I can, one thing's the example of something was retail use, went to office, and now we're going to go back to retail use. If I remember correctly, put into the zoning bylaw that if the use requires site plan review, but if the town planner determines that there's no additional parking required from it, then site plan is
Right.
applicable.
Right.
So in that case, my guess is that's the type of determination Steve would make, is that
If I thought it was going to be a more intensive use and require more parking, then I'd put them through the full site plan review.
Gotcha. All right.
All right, sorry to derail a little bit.
Okay, page 4. Post-construction site management operations plan. I really didn't have much on this at all. I kind of ixnayed it. I'm not quite sure how you would even enforce anything like this post-construction when somebody's in there. But a plan for kitchen waste management, storage, disposal, frequency of pickup, grounds management, including mowing, snow removal and care, landscaping of care for trees, plantings and gardens, noise, odor, and dust mitigation measures. So how would you propose you would manage something on somebody mowing their grass and
I think
trimming
we've
their
done this
plants?
before, though, because if you look at Onyx, we were requiring them to do dust mitigation.
Oh,
They
that's
had to come
fine.
up with a plan. So
Right,
I get
that's
this
fine.
on certain ones, like
But
disposal.
not on everything, it'll apply to certain ones.
I would get rid of the plans for rubbish, recycling, and kitchen management. We don't need to get into that.
Exactly.
But grounds management in terms of a plan for maintaining the landscaping on an ongoing basis, I would want to see something like that, and the building commissioner could enforce that.
And isn't snow removal, hasn't that come up in certain parking designs because they had to have a place?
Well, we always, on site plan review, they always put where they're going to put the snow. Right, and we always
Yeah,
make sure
I just
that,
didn't know if this makes it a requirement. I didn't know if we had that.
it always is, yeah.
Okay.
It always is.
So if we took care of if we took grounds management, care of
Including mowing,
landscaping,
snow removal, and care of landscaping, cares for trees and plantings and gardens.
I would just get rid of number one.
mowing,
Number one.
rubbish, oh, sorry, rubbish, yes. The only thing there, because we actually have been, the only thing they've been doing for larger commercial stuff is showing where a dumpster would go, correct? As part of the site plan?
Right.
But we don't need to know that it's being emptied every other week.
Right.
Agreed.
I would just mention that we had a big white shopping center that residents were complaining on a routine basis.
Overflow.
That, no, when they first built it,
Be at it for
it was
another half hour.
food market. And they were doing the trash pickup between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. And then when Big Life wired it, they started doing it 2 and 3 in the morning.
So I do like the
That's
rubbish
what
recycling. I like scheduled hours, and at least scheduled hours. Like, we're not going to have noisy machinery showing up
I think
outside of these hours.
isn't that enclosed within their hours of operation though to me? Because if somebody told me that, well, we're not open, but we're gonna pick up the trash at 2 in the morning, you'd be like, that's a function of your business.
I've yet
Never really
to
seen that.
see you guys put a condition regarding hours of operation on any site plan in my brief time here.
Typically, you can't do that under site plan review.
Yeah, ZBA has done it for other stuff, is what I'm saying, is they, so to me at least, I get the question, I'd like to know, and that they're not gonna do it 2 in the morning, but to me, isn't that part of their zoning and their hours that are being decided, at least by the ZBA right now?
Well, if somebody picks up the trash, that's not hours of operation, and we don't have big things like the Big Y and stuff like that, where something like that may happen. They're pretty small. People just putting up 30 by 50 steel buildings.
Down the street, that they don't come at 2 in the morning.
I just thought it was,
I also see how
overkill.
it can happen. Because it seems like everything when we don't have something in there, it seems like someone takes that as an opportunity to then do it.
I agree.
All right, so we're ixnaying 1,
Yep.
and then,
Right?
and then on 2, grounds management, including mowing, snow removal, and care of landscaping. So you want to keep care of landscaping?
Including care of landscaping, care for trees, plantings, and gardens.
Okay.
If you just take out mowing, comma, snow removal.
Makes sense.
So take out mowing and snow removal.
Yes.
And the word and so it'd be just including care of landscaping, care for trees, plantings, and gardens. And I actually like the noise, odor, and dust mitigation. And actually, wouldn't that, if you're talking about pickups and other deliveries or whatever coming outside of business hours, wouldn't that be part of the noise, is what it would be part of, realistically?
Well, any noise. We don't
Yeah,
have
so
a
I'm
way to-
saying,
we don't have a
we're
way to
talking about
monitor noise.
When we're talking about a dumpster truck coming at 2 in the morning, and that to me is, when are you making noise? When are you creating issues?
In delivering big truck deliveries. Yeah, 7th Avenue, Big Y. They used to have, the food mart, trucks come at 7 in the morning. When Big Y took it over, they start coming at 2 or 3 in the morning and idling
Yep.
3 hours till.
Winter time especially. Okay.
What else you got, Carl?
Okay, so
You were cool with the rest of the requirements for submissions?
requirements for submission. That's way back at the beginning, right?
No, we just went by. We were just on that. We were just on 3B.
Yeah, what else?
Page 4. I mean, so there's stuff here that I don't see in site plans that we're asking people to put, like photographs of the site, including existing buildings. I've never seen building photographs in a plan.
Yeah, no.
Proposed building elevations. I don't
We
usually
can
see
go over
that.
those. Those are,
Let Carl go through his comments and then we'll.
Sure.
the answer to that is no, I'm not. But, and then
You're not
there's
cool
even
with
a
that?
section here that refers to section 8D, but there is no section 8D here. I couldn't find it, so I don't think it's here. So, like miscellaneous typos and stuff like that. But I'm just going over these are the things that I would be
Okay.
going over after. I'm going after the most obvious ones. Development impact statement, a complete development impact statement on 5, which will include the following: a complete development impact statement, Form Appendix B, an environmental analysis, which provides description of that. These are the things that I had that should belong with the Board of Health, and then the environmental assessments are the things that I had that would belong with the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, so we have septic analysis goes right out.
I mentioned 8D is right here.
Where is it?
Page.
8D,
No, just, 5.
it's right here.
Change of use submissions?
Right.
Uh-huh. 2 pages away. Here we go.
I do agree with you on some of these issues. The only one I'd ask is a D, traffic impact analysis. Hadn't we discussed those before in certain cases?
Yeah, and I
Wasn't that
think-
going to be as ordered by the board or something like
As
that?
needed.
It's
Right.
under the conditional section.
Because I put a traffic impact, it's in here a few times.
Traffic input.
Right, traffic impact analysis is a general analysis, anticipated traffic impact. I had back where it was there, where it said shall be performed. I said, I had put in may be performed. That might be, yeah, that's a little further up in 11.
Well, if you remember the comment I made on it, I would rather not tie a traffic impact study to specific roads like Route 140, 12, and 62,
Right.
because we do get minor projects
And that's,
on those roads.
and that's what I had, that's on
I would
11.
rather have it based on the trips generated, the vehicle trips per day, item A3 under 11,
Hold on, which page?
page 7.
A3?
Page 7,
Yeah.
item
3.
11A3. That I would keep.
400 vehicles?
Yeah,
He's just saying get rid of 11A1. That's basically what
right,
you're saying.
that's what I'm saying.
Right, that's
So
what I
I
have.
was talking about development impact statement item 9D on page 5. And that was the idea that if somebody did a development impact statement on any project, provided general analysis what the traffic would be, which would then give you an opportunity to determine if you
General.
need a more detailed.
That actually makes sense, because what you're saying is, how are we going to determine if it's 400 vehicles unless someone does the work?
Yeah.
And they have to generally say, we believe we're going to generate 500 trips or 200 trips. Then that would trigger this impact assessment, correct? Right. So, okay, so I actually understand that. Yeah, that makes sense then. Oh, that makes sense.
And under 9,
It does.
I just wanna make sure I'm
Before
not
we
reading
move
that.
on, under 9D,
9D.
if we can say projects anticipated traffic impacts based on ITE traffic generation manual, so that they know that's the manual we're going to be sizing them up against. They have a trip generation manual For a zillion and one land uses, they have trip generation data tied to each land use. And that's what I would expect them to use with calculating their projected number of
Which one's
vehicles.
that, Steve? 10,
Page 5,
page 5,
9D.
9D?
9D.
Okay, so you're going to
So
reword
they use the
that?
book.
Yes.
Yeah, they'll know where to get the reference from. Right.
So Carl mentioned 9C, taking that out.
Yeah, because we don't do that.
We don't
That's-
have-
That's Board of Health.
Yeah.
I actually have something about this 11 just before we move off of it. I thought we had talked about this, our most heavily impacted roads were 140, 12, and 62. And when I'm looking at 400 vehicle trips per day or 50 vehicles per peak hour, if you put 48 semi-trailers on 62 or 140 an hour at 9 in the morning, no one would be able to go anywhere. So what I'm saying is, I think those thresholds for, in certain cases, may be so high, like, if it was a Walmart with a set of lights and other stuff, I'd say, yeah, 400 probably works, 50. But my worry is, I mean, it's something like Onyx. I'll bet you Onyx is under 50 vehicles per peak hour, but they create a tremendous amount of traffic.
So maybe
And
we add a
it's slow down.
threshold for truck traffic.
Something in the way that,
And explain my
Yeah.
approach on this.
What about weight? I mean, I'm talking about Onyx for example. If you have 50 times X amount of pounds,
no one will ever
Doesn't-
do the math, though.
no, I know, but it would do more damage to the road than it would.
They have a limit to weight when they weigh in at the station before
I
they
think
can
we
even
should
pull
put
out.
a tonnage fee in our earth removal
Okay.
regulations.
On page 5,
Yep.
under 9D, the reason 9D on page 5 is worded the way it is, a traffic impact analysis is a general analysis of parts of anticipated impact. Their ITE generation may be 200 vehicles, but 100 of those may be tractor-trailer trucks at peak period.
And this gives
that-
us,
And that would then go back to, on page 7, 11A4, projects which the board determines based on a review of an impact statement.
Yeah.
So see, that's how.
So we have
that's where we
we have a way to rope that in
Right,
based on
exactly.
11.4,
Right.
saying, yeah, you're not talking about 50 cars at a daycare at 9 a.m. You're talking about 55 semi-trailers pulling out into the town center or wherever.
Tandem
Yeah.
trucks at that.
Yeah, Perkins.
Well, it's Perkins, it's Onyx, and it's even on, what's the junkyard? there?
okay, so maybe for
Okay.
9D,
Yeah.
we put for anticipated traffic impacts, both truck traffic and worker vehicles based on ITE traffic generation manual, something like that.
Truck traffic and other vehicles. Because maybe residential development that doesn't have worker vehicles, but has.
What else you got, Carl?
Okay, so that would mean 11A. Okay, so threshold projects meeting either of the thresholds below shall provide or may have to provide, to leave it optional.
I think may have to, then no one will ever provide it.
Well, it may have to means we would say, yes, you have to, or no, you don't. That's all I'm saying. So we're not getting asked for a waiver on it. So projects meeting either threshold.
I feel like they can ask for a waiver.
Yeah, my concern with
Yeah, I don't need
it
it.
may have to would be that we're going to see what we've had repeated here by the public. Say, well, why did they have to do it, but they didn't? And now they don't realize because they're completely different projects. Or that we'll say it's okay to have 400 cars a day on this road, but not on that road.
Because the waivers are in
I think
writing and they have better tracking, right? They're like, we want a waiver because A, B, C, and we all
Yeah.
agree, yes.
Yeah, I'd rather
And
have
then-
somebody come in and throw their weight behind it and say, hey, this is our analysis. We're not gonna hit this, we're not gonna hit this, but we're gonna hit this with semi-trailers at noon.
Have them make the case in the waiver request.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You've got our engineer to say, yeah, that's bullshit, or yeah, I can agree with
We're on
it.
page 7. We're discussing traffic studies.
Thank you.
Okay. So what are we doing with designating specific roads? Are we eliminating that like we were talking about?
I would.
I thought we had had this discussion, though, we just added those during one of our sessions.
In the very first session.
Yeah, because we said these are the roads that we have the most issues on. So now
Maybe
that
we
they're
just
written
do
down, they're
a little bit lower threshold for those roads. Like, so if it's still really a minor project, they don't, I mean, they could get a waiver, I guess, but.
My thing was the waiver is, yeah, I'm building a convenience store that's only got 2 parking spots into this. It'd be like, fine, you waive. But I just hate to say that, like, there's parts of Route 12, 62 and 140 that already are horrible. And
Again, if they give us their traffic generation numbers,
It's all encompassing.
no matter what road it's on.
yeah, so if they do the generation numbers, we don't need that. Okay, no, I completely understand. One can be removed.
Well, I can tell you on 140 tomorrow in Princeton, they're closing the road
It's all encompassing.
because they're they're widening the road. They're closing the road. So, I don't know.
Carl, what else you got?
A couple of small things. Let's see, on page 9B, we have it's a proposed drafting plan. That's probably grade A, proposed grading.
Yep.
That must be work, those cast spell checks.
Yeah.
Spelling. All right, on 11, down at the bottom, 3, perimeter buffers. Minimize the visual noise conflicts between different uses when a proposed development conflicts with an adjoining residential use. Proposed development shall include a buffer along adjoining property lines conforming to the provisions set forth. So
I'd
Richard,
actually, the word conflicts.
Why are we assuming it conflicts?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what triggers
it
that.
defines in 1 and 2 there what conflicting
Continuing on.
means.
So remember
Okay, yeah.
the zoning amendment for the performance zone,
Yep.
where we make a revision to the dimensional table, and we're requiring a 20-foot buffer for any commercial or industrial property that abuts a residential use.
And road.
I think that
This
gets
is-
at it.
This is 25, this one. This one says 25.
Well, that's just for multi.
No, that was for the first one too, for one, which is the commercial and industrial development. So, page 11, number 1, at the very bottom, 3A1, commercial office industrial development proposed or adjoining residential development or zone.
No. When he said the buffer is 25
It
feet.
applies to both.
It says required buffer areas shall be no less than 25 feet in depth when the proposed.
Again, I don't know that we need perimeter buffers if we're going to require it in our dimensional requirements.
But
Yeah.
this actually addresses, you're completely right, this addresses not a commercial to residential, but a multifamily to single residential, which is probably the most contentious things I've ever seen in here so far, is those 2 things, is commercial next to residential and multifamily next to single family. This,
I'd rather put this, if we're going to do that, I'd rather put that in the table of dimensional requirements itself.
That's where it is already.
Yeah, but it's only for commercial and industrial that abuts
it's
residential.
not for multifamily.
Right.
At least the
So if we wanted to add multifamily, should we add it here or put it in the table?
I would put it in
dimensions?
the dimensional table.
Yeah, because we already had the one.
I would go to one spot to see what their dimensional requirements are.
Right.
So let me make note of that.
So may just say required buffer area shall
Comply with.
comply with the dimensional table.
Exactly.
I actually do think it will lessen the arguments with some people when we're saying it's already built in there when it comes to multifamily.
Okay, page 13, 7, signage. That's really not up to us. There is, we have a sign.
Where's that?
Page 13, number 7.
At the bottom?
Yeah, at the bottom.
If I read your sign regulations, it doesn't address illumination signs. for instance.
How do we control the illumination of it?
So, why don't we, I actually looked at this as part of lighting, because that was one of my questions. We already talk about having lighting not intrude upon another's property, not, they have to be built in a certain way. And I'll be honest, that illuminated sign that I see, that's on 24/7, the entire thing is lit up, it's actually brighter than any sign you could light with a spotlight. So I can actually understand regulating them in some way, shape, or form on the site plan.
To me, it should be in the zoning bylaw, but I put in here because it's not in your zoning bylaw, so I put it in here.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to keep it.
The big issue with illuminated signs is they tend to illuminate everything.
Yep.
And not just the logo, not just the lettering.
Yep.
So you get this nice blue lettering with a big bright white background.
Yep, they're all set up that way. My other question would be for that is hours,
But you're right, that's usually in zoning.
but we don't have that.
No.
So it actually makes sense to put it here.
Well, we don't really have a zoning bylaw, is it a protective bylaw?
It's the same thing.
Not the same thing?
And then my
Okay, let's try to keep it moving along. We're going to want to start our hearings by 7.
Yeah, that's, like I said, the only question I had on this 7 is hours for illuminated signs. Because right now they're 24/7.
And that's a whole nother issue from my experience, because you need to specify a consistent standard or not regulating, because Saturday Planning Board does on a case-by-case basis, and their hours regulations are all over the board.
So we could regulate that, they have to identify that they're using illuminated signs, correct?
Right.
That's the other thing I've seen, a couple plans that don't show illuminated signs and they end up with that.
So you're saying that everybody's okay with signage?
Yeah, I am. Anybody else?
Everybody okay with signage? On the island?
I like it.
Carl, what else you got?
Okay, page 15. 15C, where the town center district design guidelines conflict with the provisions of section 14D1, 14D, more stringent shall apply. Any project located within the town center district comply with pages 12 through 25. I don't think that town center district guidelines were ever adopted.
They were adopted, but they're just like informational, like they're not
They
binding.
don't have any regulatory teeth to them.
Yes,
This would give regulatory teeth.
yeah.
This then makes them part of the regs.
So,
They
but we're
just ask
referring,
for a waiver.
so we're referring to guidelines that really aren't approved for anything, really haven't been adopted by anybody. They're just out there to look at.
They're just guidance materials.
Right. Well, this would codify it, right?
I don't know that,
Well, we have the authority to do that.
yeah.
I don't think we have the authority to do
I mean,
that.
we're just saying that those are part of our guidelines.
Yeah, but they could be thrown in the wastebasket tomorrow.
I mean, what do you mean?
How were those, sorry, ignorance here, lack of knowledge, how were they originally adopted? Committee put them forward?
I don't
or
believe they ever
voted
were.
on?
I don't believe they ever were. I think it was just drawn up and put out there, but nobody ever acted on it. So they're out there to look
Yeah,
at and to
then-
review.
then I
They were
agree.
adopted as guidelines.
Yeah.
They were officially adopted, but have no teeth.
My thing is adopted by who? Because unless it went to either a town meeting or a process, I would be 100% against it.
Hearing and
Because I
voting.
certainly don't want someone a year from now to go, hey, I know this says you have to have 20 feet, but tomorrow it's 6. And there's no process to changes. And if it hasn't been adopted in a way that the town was aware of it, there was notification.
So should we have an appendix D that's the town center guidelines that we pull in from
It's
that
already
document?
on our website. I would take that out. I think that could get us in legal trouble.
So
Exactly.
hold on,
So
what
take
about
out 15 then.
Yeah, because B would be they have to comply with the provisions. And those, I mean, I would get it, like you said, town meeting.
So we're trying to get this to a manageable read. I would take out 15.
Exactly. I think that's about as far as I got. A typo on page 21, the applicant, decision shall be mailed to the applicant and filed. It says field.
And I sent you a few minor corrections.
Yes,
Steve.
you've given me your comments, you can go over them with Richard and the group now if you want. Carl, you're going to finish your review
Yes,
and put something together in writing? Can you
Yes.
do that in the next couple of weeks?
absolutely.
Okay. Eric, why don't you go next?
So I just wanted to bring up a couple things that were in some of the other towns' guidelines that we don't have, and I don't know where they are. One was mentioning walkways that are adjacent to parking. They specified requiring something like wheel stops at a minimum to protect the pedestrians. I don't know if we should have something like that, or if we do in our zoning somewhere, parking.
Every parking would need a speed bump at the entrance. That's what that basically ends up being.
No, if you have a pedestrian walkway that's next to where the cars park, that at a minimum, you
Yep.
need wheel stops.
Oh, okay, I get it.
For the
I thought you meant
cars.
Okay, no.
If you're abutting pedestrians, where pedestrians have
If
to
they
walk,
design out a
like sidewalk
pedestrian
or something.
walkway,
Yeah.
you'd have to block it so a car can't roll into it.
You're talking about like the curb stop kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't have that in here. What I do have as a general principle is development design shall provide for safe and convenient driveway circulation
So that's-
systems. And also mentioned about providing for safe pedestrians. You can achieve that through,
A bunch of different ways, yeah.
yeah, that stop
Basically
or
separate
through
stops.
a landscape
Barrier,
barrier between sidewalk and that. There's a lot of different.
guardrail, a million different.
So I tend to lean on the side that, tell them the objective, and then in reviewing the application, did they meet the objective?
And we can revise these guidelines. If like 20 people come in and are not consistently meeting the objective, we can say, here are ways you could meet the objective. Right? Okay. So it references Appendix A, B, and C. Are those documents that already exist?
A and C, A is your application, that's online.
Yeah.
C is your fee schedule, which is already adopted. B would be the form for the development impact statement, which I've got several different examples I've seen from other different communities. Once we go through this, my intention is to finalize that because then I know what to put in there.
Another thing we had mentioned previously is that Westminster had an encouraged and discouraged landscaping plant list as an appendix. Do we want something like that or no?
We found it helpful in Westminster.
It actually does make sense because the only thing it seems like people want to paint it is the green China overlays.
So to suggest it, it's not a required.
Just a suggestion.
So why don't I do I take Westminster's and just put that, change Sterling and put that as appendix D.
Is there anything we should mention about sidewalks? Like, should we mandate sidewalks in certain regions? Or is that just a town thing and the developer doesn't do that?
And we've actually taken them out of our red sidewalks because of the issues of who cleans them, who doesn't clean them, and who's responsible if somebody falls on them. And there was all kinds of maintenance.
So what is our long-term vision on sidewalks in Sterling?
They were removed from subdivision regs, I can tell you that. Not in there.
I think where they exist, we've seen them improved, but other than that, I hate to just throw it out there to say that, yeah, we already removed them, I'm sure it was for a reason.
Anything else, Eric?
Some towns actually for certain development required bike parking. I don't know if we want to think about that. That was in the master plan. A bunch of people want more bike friendliness. Doesn't make sense for some kinds of development.
I'd say if somebody's willing, but not to mandate it.
Could be a suggestion.
Right, exactly.
Page 14, item 11, circulation, vehicular and pedestrian connections, parking for provided between adjacent sites, et cetera, et cetera. Bicycle parking space and racks will be provided in an area that does not conflict with vehicle circulation or parking. It doesn't get into the quantity, but it basically makes it clear that you need to provide some type of
So this-
accommodation as appropriate.
I think that should be clarified then, because I read that to be like, if you have bicycle parking spaces and racks.
The way bicycle parking spaces and racks are to be provided. Right. Yeah, there's actually no option.
Conflict with vehicle
Okay.
circulation and
Yeah,
practice.
because it's R.
And then the intent is they could ask for waiver if the use is such that bicycle parking doesn't make any sense.
Right. Okay.
Most businesses, and then get an issue is an e-bike parking or is a rare, it's a lot of issues.
Might work in some applications, but most.
I think that was it.
Okay, Mike?
Already went over the stuff that I was thinking.
You've already covered?
Already covered all of
Just
it.
point one thing out real quick on 3 here.
I only got so far into this,
You've got MGL 44, section 54G.
and I went over some things.
It
with
should be
Carl.
53G.
I had an opportunity to, he made it easy for me to,
I'm asking you and Carl that if you've got any further comments on these regs for Richard, that you get them to me in by 2 weeks' time.
yeah, we should be.
Can we also do this again? Because I think it helps more.
I was thinking that it would make sense to have Richard come back for one last go-round.
It was even...
Very helpful to do that.
I totally understand that part because it's helping us when we're asking questions. But I'm talking about, like, if Val brings up something, I would like to know ahead of time so we're not sitting down and saying, hey, I don't understand this and wasting your time. At least I can kind of get Val, what did you mean by that? Or like this whole...
I'll copy the board when I send.
Yeah.
And if I could, as soon as I get those, what I'd like to do is do a composite of everybody's comments
Yep.
in order that's in the draft.
Absolutely.
And so then everybody would have, not listen who does it, just everybody know the topics, issues that have been raised.
Right.
It gives us an opportunity to chew it through. And
Right. We don't want to over-regulate. You know, that's the thing. You don't want to over-regulate because then you're going to discourage anybody from doing. If you put too many things in front of them too restrictive, they're just going to move on and go somewhere else.
And that's one reason for encouraging a pre-application conference.
It does make it, when there's a concrete set of rules, when it says shall, when it says, when we have some of these things in there, it does make it very apparent to whoever's coming forward that they don't have to go through this 5 or 6 month process. Hey, I modified this. Well, you forgot that. I modified this, like that Onyx that went on for a year because of some of the design things. I think if it's all up front, hopefully they'll have better planning.
Well, that whole was engineering.
One question I had based on Steve's comments earlier was on here. In the completeness review, I had where I take the position generally that staff shouldn't be the final say on anything. That's the board. And that's the reason I was making an appeal process for anything. But I also understand Steve's position that if he looks at it and on a very basic level it's not complete, they shouldn't go forward.
I've never had anyone fight me on that in my career as a planner.
Rarely will they fight because usually a fight is a losing battle, but I'd always like to give people the option.
So hold on, we're talking about just the completeness of the application.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, you're the gateway.
Okay. So we'll change that then, so that if Steve finds it incomplete, the clock stops.
Right.
And doesn't resume.
Come back when you've got X, Y, and Z, and then I'll
Yeah, so
process
they don't burn up
it.
time.
And I've done that a number of times, and I've never.
Yes, you have. Yeah.
Well, I've always told people, board's going to deny this, but I'm going to tell them that's not complete. And 99 out of 100, there is that 1% that will say, I won't go anyway. I'd say, okay.
I don't see harm in leaving the appeal there, though. Like, I see what you're saying. You don't want to leave it to a town employee to be able to say
Again,
no
we're
to
trying to trim
somebody.
this down.
Yeah.
And make it readable.
And be simple. We want to be simple too.
So
We want to be easy to
I
read.
got a question. I only have one, really one. On line 12, on page 12,
One at a time.
category D, shade trees.
Yeah.
Which page again?
12, page D, section D. I'm gonna say this, you know, I watched the guys plow, the road. And the town maintains the trees. They're a pain in the ass. I want to pour gas on it and light them on fire. I mean, I understand. But what I'm saying is, the shade trees worth it. I look at, you know, the granite curbs that they plow, and it tears the hell out of a plow. Town plows. Yeah. And that's just my own opinion. That's the only thing
Well, at a setback distance acceptable to the DPW, so he can suggest that they move them back to a length where it won't interfere where it's plowed.
All right.
The same thing exists in our subdivision regs, 40-foot trees. But the issue with that is it doesn't say whether you can plant them there or not. It could be an electric line, a septic system, anything like that, but it's the same kind of thing. I know what you're saying, you don't, maybe too many of them or something.
I watched them plow the road, and I think the shade trees are a pain in the neck for the plowing end of it. Granite curbs, they hit them and they destroy a plow.
Right, well, I think we got rid of those. I think we got rid of the granite headstones on catch basins and stuff. I think we got rid of that.
And to me, this is, when we're talking about this is general landscaping. So if we take that out, you're talking about eliminating trees from like some of these, when we're talking about this area has to be landscaped. I understand that we don't want to stick them in the middle of a parking lot or some, too close to the road that we end up chewing up our own equipment. But at the same time, like someone else said, I think the DPW superintendent can say that, but I'd also like to see that we don't end up with a bunch of properties that are clear cut and then nothing has to go back.
Well, DPW is going to review every site plan along with all the other departments. And he can say, hey, can you move your trees back a bit so that our plows don't hit them?
It gives it some options.
And if DPW looks and says, there's not enough space to move them back, that's the basis for waiver, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some waivers that, by the nature, if the light department says, yeah, we want it done, it's all legend. If DPW says, we want it done, you simply do it. I mean, just because they're the ones that deal with problems on a day-to-day basis.
And I suppose if it's not a practical application, you can ask for a waiver.
John, you got anything?
That's the only thing I have.
Okay, so if you have any further comments you want to share with Richard, get them to me in 2 weeks' time.
Get work on that, yep.
I will copy the board in whatever I send to Richard. We're going to want to bring him back for our October meeting. I can now make our usual date of October 24th. You want to do 6 o'clock then? Richard, I forget how many night meetings are specified in our contract.
I don't know. That won't be a problem. You said 2 weeks. Sooner is better. Because my intention is to take everybody's comments and give them positive what they are.
Okay.
All right, so we can bring you back here for 6 o'clock on the 24th of October?
Yes.
Somebody, anybody? Good?
I'm good. That's good.
Yep.
6 o'clock on 24th, right? Yeah.
Okay. Richard, good job. You were very thorough. I know you did that intentionally, rather get it all out there and have us trim it back rather than miss something. So I appreciate that.
I've always found it easier to take things out than add things in.
Add thing in.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Steve, you want to tell those guys they can come in?
Yeah, let me get situated here. And I've got a hearing notice that you're going to need to read. Go.
Have a good night.
Night. Thanks. Thanks.
Okay, folks, we're ready.
You got any
The second one? Yeah, I processed that, so you should be getting paid some share. Everyone, if you could please sign in.
You didn't sign in for her tonight.
Yeah,
You're slipping.
she was first.
She beat you to it. Okay, next thing we got up is the continued public meeting for the site plan approval on 48 Worcester Road, the change of use, the expansion of the contractor's yard, the applicant, Dragonfly Design and Build. So, where we left off last time was that we asked for some arborvitae plantings on the north side rear and proposed white vinyl stockade fencing to the left of the corrugated steel building that stops at that entrance and then picks back up on the other side of the entrance and goes to the property line. And to ask that that be shown on the site plan. So it appears to me that all those changes have been made. They're on the site plan. So I would say that of the things that we wanted when we asked him to come back tonight and make those changes.
If I may?
Yes.
Also, we want to make sure that is secured on Boutel, that entrance or exit, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, is that going to be a condition? You're looking at that as a condition to keep
I
that
would.
secured? We talked about that at the last meeting, right?
I don't care if it's a chain, gate, or
Yeah, right
whatever.
now we
Just
just have it as a chain that's easy to take off. 'Cause
Just so it's not a cut through.
Yeah.
that's all.
No, you're going to continue to have that. We talked about that
Yeah.
at length. You do not want traffic through there, obviously, and you're going to continue to use the chain.
Correct.
The only concern we had was not putting any material that would block that for emergency access.
Sure,
Right.
yeah, that's fine.
That makes sense?
Yep.
So are we adding a new condition, secure the access from which road now?
Hotel Road. And to not block the access.
If I may?
Go ahead.
A couple of things. As part of the ZBA decision, there's a wooded buffer on the back that borders Boutel Road. Since our last meeting, when I actually specifically spoke about material being pushed into the corner, there's actually now more material. Some of the smaller stuff has been knocked down. Call it a berm for lack of a better term, that's closer towards the building has now been built up again. When that area was supposed to remain undisturbed, and I even stressed that the material that's about 7 feet from the roadway and probably on town property shouldn't be there. It needed to be removed behind the fence. What happened between then and now that?
We actually did start moving that material. There was probably like 40 yards there, and I'd say we're down to 10 or
Yeah,
15.
the material that's there was not there at our last meeting in the same place. It was a smaller pile, and it was more on your property. What it appears to be is that from the building to the corner that abuts 46 Worcester Road. It appears that whole area was scraped.
Oh, this side over here.
Tim, come on up.
Yeah, come on. That side. The
So what are you
side.
talking about?
So,
Are you talking about this side over here?
hold on. What I'm talking about is right here.
Okay, yeah, so,
This entire area's been scraped and a pile's been pushed now onto
Closer to the
that.
road.
okay, so I can tell, yeah, so this right here, the grade was kind of up and down. So we did take some of this fill material just to create, we didn't scrape it, we just used material to create a clean, even grade so that when the fence goes in, there'll be a consistent grade.
I'm not talking about this over this hump that became large. What I'm talking about is this large pile of material that wasn't there before. There was
It
a
was there.
smaller pile.
We didn't bring anything in, it was just, there was a big pile here, and as they were clearing it, they were pushing it around, so I agree, that you did get pushed, and it's probably uglier than it was, but we could get that out of there in a day if we have to. We just,
It's going to have to, you can't put a fence in.
oh, yeah, I agree,
Fences,
yeah.
It certainly can't be
Yeah.
left on the other side. That was part of the discussion is,
Yeah, we were using a skid steer and pushing and going into the pile, and as he was doing it, it might, it probably did get pushed closer to the street, but more material was not brought in.
okay, so
you'll
I
have
didn't
to
think you brought in material,
Yeah.
but I thought you didn't scrape this and pile it here.
No.
You also have a berm in this area that's been increased in height.
I don't think it's increased in height.
There's a whole layer of fresh material on top of it.
So yeah, what we did, this was all fill material in here. We carted out, I would say, about 20 or 30 yards of it so far. And then we used some of it to create a more clean grade from the corner where we plan to start our fence here to the tree grade, or to there's like a fence post right there. We used that material, went back and forth over. We didn't raise the grade in this area. I think just because it's like fresh material, it looks different, but it's not. We didn't.
You scrape the pavement or you scrape the ground.
Well, this was kind of
Yes, to
like,
create a straight line.
Yeah, that's not.
Create a
this-
straight line.
yeah. I mean, as it was before, the bottom of the fence would have been up 18 inches in one spot, at grade in the next spot. So we just tried to create a clean.
Level it.
Then just so I'm clear,
Yeah,
the material here is within the buffer. It needs to be removed.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything that you're going to be working on will be behind the fence, correct?
Correct. I mean, that material is going to be
Yeah,
completely
because
gone.
part of my
Yeah.
problem though is there was a bunch of small, very small trees, but they're all gone now because they've all been torn off.
I don't think we did kill any, but it's possible. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can show you the pictures if you want. I took pictures this afternoon, but there was a bunch of ones. They're not large, but the problem here is there's some very large trees, and some of the only visual block that'll help mitigate the giant white fence is some of those smaller trees. And they will
Yeah.
grow larger. I just want to see some care taken when it
Sure.
comes to removing that dirt,
Okay,
so
yeah.
nothing further is seen.
Yeah. We'll pull it all back and then
Okay,
grab it and
thank
take
you.
it out. Yeah. Sorry about it.
So all that being said, I think what we wanted on the plan is on here. He's going to clean that stuff up before he puts the fence up, obviously, because it'll be on the wrong side of the fence. So I would welcome a motion that we,
My apologies.
what's that?
My apologies. If I could have one thing, dumpster that you're currently using, is that going to be there? Yeah, looking directly onto the property at your building, the front building?
Yeah.
There's a dumpster to the right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be your dumpster you're going to keep there then, correct?
Typically, yeah.
Typically?
Yeah.
Then I believe what's required is fencing line, correct? We've done that for multiple dumpsters.
For the dumpster?
In the past. Yeah, because it contains the trash blowing around.
Is the dumpster shielded by this fence that's going in the back?
No, it's here. It's here, probably a little further towards the property line, but it's back in that area.
I don't know if I noticed it.
Yeah, if you're driving towards West Boylston, it's hard to see because of the way the trees are, but it's, like I said, it's probably in that area. Because that's what was done at Fence Company. I believe there was one other.
I mean, I don't have to have it there. I can put it somewhere less conspicuous if you prefer.
I think, honestly, it looks like it would be easy on and off there. The only concern, at least the board has had prior, from my understanding, is that by putting a fence around it, not tight, is that if anything happens to blow out of it, it's kind of contained within that fenced area, so it doesn't become unsightly. You have a beautiful piece of property, you really keep the thing well. I'm just thinking that we want to be consistent on this, and I need some guidance from the board that's been on this longer than I, whether it's something we've been consistently doing or only in a couple different cases.
I think we've consistently done it.
And again, I don't think we need to have him come back with a modified plan for it, as long as it's in part of the provisions, that if the dumpster lands there, it needs to be surrounded by a fence.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that.
Tim, you okay with that?
I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be ideal for us, because for us, the dumpster, we come back from job sites with things in the back of our dump trucks, and we're throwing it in from the
I'm
side.
not asking you to put it tight. If it was twice as wide as that dumpster and you could pull a dump truck next to it, wouldn't bother me at all. My only concern is some way of mitigating windy day, and a bunch of material goes in there, and this stuff comes up, it's basically contained within that area. That's what we've used in the past. I certainly wouldn't want to constrict you to say you only need 4 feet on each side.
Yeah.
If you need the spot to put a truck in there, go ahead. And it also may make more sense if you're doing roll-off-roll-ons. He rolls off one, he picks up the other in one shot.
Yeah, that's what, yeah, exactly.
My concern is just contained.
We did fence the dumpster at the fence company.
Yeah.
And also at Twins.
Yeah.
We also did, the board did before, did a medical building down the street.
Because he seemed to be pretty consistent. It does help with that. It's a dumpster, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, that's not my concern. The concern is more about, we get a good wind on one day and all of a sudden there's material
I think
everywhere.
you're talking 3 sides, not 4.
Yeah, it's just something to contain. Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
And you double the width of it so a truck can fit in there?
yeah, I think for us, for that particular spot, it would mess up the whole flow of that area. I mean, I'd probably just move the dumpster somewhere else.
The other side?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, if there was a provision in there that said the dumpster shall be, wherever the dumpster is sited, it shall be contained within a fenced area on 3 sides.
okay.
I want to give you some flexibility, and I also don't want you to have to come back again in 30 days.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
To me, that's a waste of time.
Here's an idea.
Do it now.
Is that there's it's not shown clearly on here. There's basically this is a ramp up here, and this is it's like a parking spot size pavement, flat pavement area in here. So this is loading dock height, warehouse, wall, 36-inch wall right here. Would that potentially be considered a closed-in area? You got building.
I don't think 36-inch. I actually think it'd probably be worse because it's all just either going to blow that way or that way. A 3-foot wall on a 5 or 6 foot dumpster, to me, wouldn't do anything. And again, I'm trying to be consistent, and that's where if we're saying we've done this consistently, I just want to make sure we do the same thing no matter what.
So it would be a 6-foot fence
It's
typically.
typically the same white vinyl fence is what we require. Does that make sense to put that?
Yeah, I mean,
Because
you
you're
gotta just do
already
that,
there,
yeah.
somewhere along here.
How about if you put it here,
Yeah.
right? And then you just keep
Yeah.
it like that.
Yeah, and again, could we just do one side of that, like
It's,
just that? Because again, this creates this
For the way, because it's basically what you need to access it. You need to get to the side of it, is what I'm saying.
I mean, at least you would have like a building on one side.
Right.
I mean, he has to access it. I see what he's saying. He's got to get to it and dump in it. So there'd be a fence here. You'd have the building here. You have the stuff out on the road here.
Yeah, fence.
Right. So you want to be able to back up next to it. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's kind of our big problem for.
yeah, well, that's why, to me, that's why I was saying the dumpster was here and this fence was here and here so that you can pull in. That's not my concern. My concern is more catching whatever comes out of it when it's windy.
Okay.
That makes sense? make sense to you guys? Or am I?
Well, you need another piece here to give them get enough room to be able to back in there, either way.
Yeah, I'm saying like, you wouldn't even need, if there was one piece here and one piece here, and again, it could be shifted over, so a truck can pull in next to the dumpster in that same space. I don't see that as being a concern. Matter of fact, if anything, it would be less unsightly.
Any other input on that?
I mean, if he's agreeable to that site, fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, but,
It wouldn't be much. You might be talking 10 and 10, maybe.
It won't be as open as the other place would be, where he has it now.
yeah, I mean, this is where we come in and
Yeah.
out every day, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a lot more. But I think the problem is if I try to put fencing over there, it's
Yeah,
gonna
it's going to
clog
block up everything.
Yep.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And again, for the sake of consistency of all the recent opinions.
Well, there's a fine line between consistency and dealing with the site as it exists.
Practicality.
Correct, but I'm just saying we have, what, 70 fence up back?
I guess, yeah, so here's the other
Use the
potential
existing
problem for me is, I mean, I don't know, yeah, just,
Yeah.
it's not ideal, obviously, I can do whatever
John's
needs to
fine
happen,
with it,
but this is kind of what we're using
With the-
as our
fence.
area.
With the
In a
fence.
perfect world, I would keep everything that was Dragonfly in this area. This building is basically vacant. Someday, it'd be nice if it was leasable. Putting my stuff over here is not ideal, but
Here.
yeah.
And what I'm thinking of is, as we mentioned, at least it's saving you that material on the back. And again, if this doesn't work because of the flow pattern, I just do not want to be inconsistent where we say, yeah, leave one dumpster completely out in the open. For view.
No, I agree. That's how we're
mitigation.
handling it, so.
So basically, yeah, but
So where would it be best to, where would it fit?
it's hard to say, right? Kind of have to think about it, but I guess if the rules, I just have to fence it in wherever it is that the basic idea?
It needs to be fenced in on three sides, and again, we're not looking to tell you it needs to be 3 or 4 feet off of it, that if you
yeah.
need to pull in a piece of equipment next to it to offload.
Yeah, that's it.
You want the accessibility.
Yeah, and realistically, if it's a roll-off and it's a double wide, he's gonna drop one, pick up the other
Yeah,
all in
that's
one
the
shot.
idea,
It's actually
yeah.
easier for the guy. The fence will not affect his operation.
Okay. Yeah, because it might be, but it's hard for me to say right now, but it might be that
Exactly
it's
where?
better for us over here.
Might be better here. It's
Yeah,
gonna be up to you.
exactly. Yeah,
It's gonna be up to you.
Okay, yeah.
So we'll just say fencing on 3 sides of the dumpster, wherever he chooses to put it.
Agreed. Yeah, fair enough. Makes sense?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so with those conditions,
All set with that?
welcome a motion that we approve.
Chair? If I could read the site-specific conditions.
Go ahead.
Per section 301-3.2.7.2 of the protective bylaw, there shall be no backing of vehicles onto or from a public way. Per section 301-4.6.6 and table 4.6.610 of the protective bylaw, that's our groundwater protection district. None of the outdoor bins can be used for the storage of de-icing chemicals except where the bins are gridded and enclosed to prevent the generation and escape of runoff or leachate. Number 8, new fencing and landscaping depicted on the site plan shall be installed within 3 months of the filing of this decision with the town clerk's office. Number 9, secure the access from Botel Road and keep access free of materials. Number 10, fence 3 sides of dumpster location.
Okay. Thank you. I would have had you read them.
Okay.
All right. So I think we're good now for a motion to approve the site plan for 48 Worcester Road, Firefly, with the conditions just read by Steve. Have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
So board members, you know the drill by now. I'm going to write up the decision tomorrow morning, send it to all of you, send it to the applicant. Once you tell me it's good to go, I'll have the chair come in and sign.
Thank you. Is what if it was parked from the top?
To stay consistent with what we've been doing with fencing is what we do. I see what you're saying, but yeah, that's what you want.
Okay.
You should have in conjunction with it if you want, but.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
Right. All right. No, it was a public meeting.
Oh, public hearing.
Right. Okay. All right, so next up is public hearing for a shared driveway special permit on James Patton Road, lot 92, 108, James Simpson applicant. Let me read the legalese on this. Pursuant to section 301-3.4.2, access of the Town of Sterling protected bylaws, notice is hereby given that the planning board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 12th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in room 205, Frederick Municipal Building, 1 Park Street, to review a special permit application for shared driveway on James Patton Drive, tax map 92, lot 108, James Simpson applicant. A copy of the plan can be reviewed at the planning department office during regular town hall hours. Sterling Planning Board. So this was in here once before, and the applicant is back again tonight at no fault of his for the mistake of the planning board on an incorrect vote. So he's here tonight to have us revote to make it official. It's a special permit. It will require a supermajority, which will be 4 out of 5. So just a couple quick things I want to say on a shared driveway. Last meeting there seemed to be some confusion on a shared driveway in a private way. A shared driveway is not a private way, it's a driveway. A private way is like Millie's Way, Neil's Way, things of that nature. Walter Way? Correct, Walter Way, things of that. This is a driveway, so I didn't want anybody confusing it with what would be done on a private way. We've actually, it was probably 5 years ago, we got rid of the requirement to name common driveways. We were naming them, which is probably what started some of the confusion, because they were ways. If you had a common driveway, you called it something way. So I think that's where the confusion came. We got rid of that about 4 or 5 years ago, and then, however, we didn't modify the application. That's been modified. So now there won't be any naming of this common driveway, the one we have coming in a couple of weeks, or anything moving on from that. So it's a driveway. It's not a private way. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question, and it's going to be maintained by the individual.
Yes, Jim, you'll have an agreement on that shared driveway for maintenance?
I have not drawn up the agreement yet, but there will be an agreement between the two lots with regard to maintenance on
That is a condition.
that approval. It was a condition of the previous approval.
Is that deeded?
Yes.
Pretty much etched in stone. So needing to be 4 out of 5, what's the sediment?
I have a question in regards to the shared drive. It is off of a private road, correct? It's not a town road? James is a private way. Okay.
So James Patton Way would be an example of what a
Yeah,
way.
okay. I'm just, for clarification.
Exactly right. Yep.
It's not going forward to be a town road or anything like that. Because the one up behind me is, I think, Charles Patton is a town road. The two back roads are different, so, okay, just for clarification.
So I'm just looking for sentiment to make sure when we have 4 out of 5 that we have the vote before we call it. So I don't have any issue. Okay.
Still maintain my objections.
Okay, so it looks like we would have 4 out of 5. So that being said, welcome a motion that we approve the common driveway for James Patton Road, Lot 92, 108. James Simpson, the applicant. Do I have a second?
Second.
Shall I read the conditions?
Yes.
The applicant shall contact the fire department for the assignment of the street addresses. Applicant shall obtain an order of conditions from Conservation Commission prior to applying for a building permit. Have you done that yet, or is that still in the works?
I go back in next Tuesday, but the conservation voted in favor of it conditionally.
Okay. And lastly, the applicant shall prepare and execute a legal document entitled Declaration of Easements and Common Rights and Obligations for James Patton Way, Lots 1 and 2. Said declaration shall outline the driveway maintenance responsibilities for the owners of Lots 1 and 2. Said declaration shall be recorded at the Worcester County Registry of Deeds and be referenced in the deeds of the respective lots.
So actually, before we vote, I'll put on the motion, we close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, now we'll take a motion that we approve the special permit for the shared driveway, James Patton Road for James Simpson.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye. All opposed? Nay.
Motion carries.
So, just like the other, sorry, Carl, I'll write up the decision tomorrow, have the board look at it, have applicant look at it, you can come in and sign.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right, now we have the minutes of August 22nd.
Well, yeah. We're not doing the chapter letter withdrawal?
Is that in here?
It's here, but they're not here.
Yeah.
What's that? What do we do with that?
They don't need to be here.
Oh, okay.
It's in my package.
It's this thing.
This document?
Come Black and Associates. It's a big, thick, staple one.
Yep.
Did you not get that?
Do you want
It's
mine?
got to be in here somewhere.
Too much paper.
Is it the second one? I got it now. Planning board recommendation on chapter land withdrawal, request for 45 Johnson Road, tax map 118, lot 9. So our job on this would be to recommend or not recommend. The select board that the town pursue the purpose of that. So I would put forward that we recommend that the town does not.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Under what conditions would we recommend that we exercise it?
I think if the town was looking for a piece of land, a larger piece of land for something that might run ball fields or
Critical
something
piece
like
that's next to, say, the school, or if it was something that the town may have interest in to expand.
Because that is a great corridor of publicly owned land through there with trails and stuff.
I forward this request to both the Open Space Committee and the Sterling Land Trust so that they can make their recommendation to the select board as well. that's one of their roles, is looking at chapter lands that come up, that are proposed to come off the books, and recommend that the town buy it because it's part of a wildlife corridor or butts other protected lands. Their issue is that, should they recommend it, does the town have the money?
Exactly.
That's the real estate, I mean, in the real estate.
So I've talked to them about how other towns do this. And other towns go to town meeting every year and they ask for $5,000 to put to, a conservation fund. And that builds up, let's say it goes 5 years without being drawn upon, and you got $25,000. That is enough to say to a land trust, hey, look, we need your help in applying for a grant that will help us buy this piece of land. We've got $25,000 of our own money that we can use to pay for the appraisal, and that's usually enough to interest a regional or local land trust to step up and help with
It
grants.
seems like something that wouldn't be on the timeline of doing this right of first refusal thing, right? This is like a very last minute, they have a purchase and sale, we have a very limited amount of time to
Well,
exercise our right.
if the Open Space Committee has that money tucked aside in an account, they can say to the select board, can we have a timeout here and give us the opportunity to work with a land trust and see if it's something that might be fundable grant-wise? So that I've seen happen elsewhere.
Let me ask
But
you a
we're not in a position to do it here.
Well, are we in the position to do it, number one? And number two, who sets the price?
The appraisal.
You get an appraisal on it.
No, because property in Sterling is going up.
Yeah,
It's money right now.
Yeah, unless we had some other large factor, we wouldn't be buying anything. And I think part of your address was, last meeting they mentioned, this is 6 million square feet behind it. It's still staying preserved. It's not landlocked.
Right.
There's no access to it.
It's a cliff.
Right,
It's a
and
mountain.
which realistically, that will remain forever on space, or at least close to it. It's not as though we're talking about that entirety of property, like, or, one piece that was blocking, the rail trail from continuing through.
But I feel like these, they're always like doing an A&R, carving off a small lot, then withdrawing that from chapter land, and then we're like, we don't want this small lot, but then they'll just do that to the whole thing over time, and then it seems like we need to strategically
It's a waste
actually
of time.
investigate.
Well, that's why I got a grant for the Open Space Committee to prepare a map of all the chapter lands and all of our protected lands and all of our trails so that they can see what connects to what, so that when chapter land comes up,
There should be a prioritized map, so that we come in here and we already know that
That's
this is a piece, this is on red priority, high priority, this is a piece we want to.
that's what the map will enable.
That makes sense. But at this point, realistically, it's 2 houses. That's what we're talking about on a.
Extremely difficult.
Yep,
Yeah.
all right, thanks.
Okay, so did we get a second on the motion to recommend not dividing? Did we get a second on that?
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Minutes.
Minutes from July?
August 22.
I have July.
I have 22. I have July 20, I have July 8.
Yeah,
18th.
July
It's the
18th.
wrong one. That's all.
I have the 18th.
Whoops, I am sorry about that.
We'll approve August next meeting.
Yeah, August 22 is on the agenda. So
The
let's
file
change-
name says August 22.
Let's change that to July 18.
Didn't we already approve these?
Yeah, you approved the July
Yeah,
meeting.
you're just wrong printed, correct?
Do
Yeah.
you have the wrong date on the top, or is it the wrong?
No, those are the old ones. This is our July 18th.
What's weird, the file name that you sent out is 8/22/2024 draft meeting minutes, but the actual text is July 18.
If the spelling reasons.
Can I check the agenda for our August meeting? This could be just me blowing it on the day.
Did Richard come here last month?
My name is spelled wrong.
It's July 8th.
Actually, who,
Yeah, he was here September 12th. He was here September 12th.
that's today, but he wasn't here last month, wasn't he?
David Favor was here last meeting.
Yeah. When I read these, they seemed awful far back.
Oh, wait a minute.
We've already done these.
And this talks about Pratt's Junction Road, which I thought that was in July, not August.
And it's also talking about Dave Chandler here, so.
Yeah, where it's followed up.
No, because it says the board agreed to have its next meeting on Thursday, August 22nd. These are the July notes.
Yep.
So these are already done.
Which we already
Which we
approved.
already approved.
Yep. Oh, and just to clarify, these are the July 18th, we approved those in August. We don't have the August 22nd.
So we need the August.
Oh, wait, at the bottom of
My
this-
apologies
at the bottom of
for it.
this,
I
it
did
says-
send you the meeting minutes for July 18th and not August 22nd. So let's bump that item to the next agenda.
Next regularly scheduled meeting.
And I think you already spelled my name right the last time.
Okay.
So here's what happened. You also have the August 22nd meeting identified as the July 18th meeting up in the header. So in other words, if you looked at the upper right-hand corner of the correct one, it says August 22nd.
Yeah.
But here it says July 18th. So when you do look at those minutes for August, it's going to say July here.
So
But
the
they're correct
electronic
minutes.
ones that you
You're
send
looking-
now
The
were
electronic's correct, except for a typo of the
Except-
date.
Yeah, right. So I looked it over and I'll
Yeah.
approve these, but nobody else got it.
You're slacking.
I'm slacking? They're slacking.
All right, gang, that's all I got for you.
Just kind of a quick comment on shared driveways. I know I had some objections to this, and it was mainly due to the fact that I think there's a place for shared driveways. I think when it's not feasible or extremely difficult to put in single driveways, that's when the option should be looked at, rather than as the first recourse. My concern with this one was multifold. Mainly, you're on a private way. The location of the shared driveway is completely in the middle of the original property, et cetera, kind of things I laid out. I'm not saying I'm fundamentally opposed to all shared driveways. What I just wanted to make clear based on 2 meetings ago and this meeting is in this case, I thought it was inappropriate.
But in this case, the shared driveway minimizes the impact on the wetland.
I hate to put it this way, but I look at that as an excuse because that is not any significant wetland. It's not a pond. It's a piece of damp earth. It's
I know folks who would disagree with you.
I understand that, and that's why I mentioned even the last one, that if the Concom had seen this and said, we do not want 2 driveways, I'd be inclined because that is their only recourse. I don't like to find someone saying, well, I know what this board will do, therefore you need to do this for me. I would rather actually have that definitively saying that, because again, I drove the property 3 months ago, when we started this, and it is swale. So some water goes through it, but it certainly isn't any habitat. There's no nesting birds down there. There's really nothing except for some damp earth as compared to some other areas.
Mike, let me ask you a question. This is where I have a problem with it. Concom approved this, and I wasn't at the last meeting, so I'm okay now. But if they approved it, they don't talk to us. It's
Well,
like,
no, they approved it because they believed at the time we had approved that drive. So because of the way we were in error in how we voted, because we did not have a supermajority,
Yeah.
we didn't realize that. So he proceeded on thinking he had an approved driveway. His next step was Concom.
But they knew at the time that there was a mistake on the driveway, it was going to be a redo because they tried tying,
If they did that, I never should have.
they tried tying the common driveway into.
I just find that access of information is lacking on boards. How do I want to say it?
Well, boards don't really communicate as much as they.
Well, they should. It's important.
Well,
that
we
they
do have an issue with conservation because we don't have an agent at the moment.
I think we got that tomorrow.
We have Matt.
Hard time.
We're not allowed to call him the agent.
I go weeks upon weeks without seeing Matt, so it's not like he's giving us hours. He's helping with the administration, the setting of agendas, the minutes and all that, but in terms of inspections, they farm that out to a consultant. So,
Well, let me ask you this, if we, well, I can't speak for the Concom, but if we tried to get another person in here?
yes, we have. We had a shared conservation agent agreement with either Rutland or West Boylston, and that fell through for some reason. I don't know.
Okay, all right.
But we have been trying. I think we should try a little harder,
All right.
because I think having a conservation agent in the building, at least for a few hours every week, is extremely important.
Who's the we that would try harder?
What's that?
Who is the we that would try harder?
That would be the management team, the select board and the town administrator.
Got it. I understand.
That's all I got, gang.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.